Why can't I speak fluently even though I read a lot? Good question, let's talk about that. Hello, I'm Julian Northbrook from doingenglish.com, here to help you, the high, intermediate to advanced English learner, go from being okay in English to amazing. So you read a lot, but you still can't speak English fluently. I get it. This is a very common challenge and one which I help my clients with pretty much on a daily basis. The first thing you've got to ask yourself is what actually is fluency? People tend to think of fluency as being a single thing that you either have or you don't, synonymous with proficiency. But actually this isn't true. There are actually 5 elements of fluency that when all running smoothly together combine to create the illusion of fluency. In a nutshell, these are encoding. Do you have the bits of language that you need stored in long-term memory? Organization. Are those bits of language organized into topics that you can use fluently? Motor skills. Do your mouth and face muscles and all that good stuff move in the right kind of way to produce the sounds that you want to produce? Activation, a technical term that basically means whether your English is awake or not. And finally, cognitive load, which again is a technical term but really refers to everything else that is going on in your head that may be dragging everything down. That, in a nutshell, is the 5 elements of fluency. If you want to go deeper into this and learn more about them, go over to doingenglish.com/shadowing and download my free The Good Shadowing Guide, where I describe these 5 elements in detail and talk about how shadowing can help to develop some of them. Now, what you've got to understand is although reading is definitely a good part of any balanced English learning routine, the elements of fluency that are required for reading are not the same as speaking. Yes, reading will help with encoding because you need to be able to recognize the bits of English that you need in order to understand what you're reading. It will also help to an extent because you will learn and you will pick up bits, although that's not the most effective way to actually learn the language you need, but it will happen to an extent from the things you are reading. But with a really big but. See, the question is, what are you reading? Many people make the mistake of saying, okay, well, I'm just going to read in English, then I'll get good at the language. So what do? They read the newspaper every day, thinking that's somehow going to magically make them good at conversation. Well, I did a research project a couple of years ago where I compared the 500 most frequent chunks from conversation with the 500 most frequent chunks from newspapers. And guess what? They're totally different. In the list of 500 in each side, only 20 items actually overlapped. Meaning, if you are reading the newspaper and expecting to suddenly learn the language you need for conversation, it ain't gonna happen because it's totally different. So although yes, reading can help with the encoding part of the 5 elements of fluency, reading will, however, do almost nothing for organization because everything's already there, organized on the page. It will do nothing for motor skills because you don't need motor skills when it comes to reading. It won't really do much for cognitive load because it's a fundamentally separate thing to the process of reading. It might help a little bit with activation because it is exposure to English and it will bring up your level of relative activation. But ultimately, the reason why you might not be able to speak fluently even though you read a lot is because they're just not the same thing. Again, yes, reading will help, but only as a part of a balanced learning routine that is actually going to develop all 5 elements of fluency. If you don't do that, then you're going to have a massive imbalance in just one area and you're still not going to be able to speak fluently. I do, of course, train my Master English Fast Accelerator course clients in all of the exercises they need for developing all of these elements of fluency. But one good exercise that we use a lot is shadowing. If you head over to doingenglish.com/shadowing, you can download for free my The Good Shadowing Guide, and it's going to go over the 5 elements of fluency in more detail, and it's going to talk about how shadowing can be used to develop some of these elements. Right guys, with that, this is me, Julian Northbrook, signing out from another video. See you in the next one. Bye bye.